So what is single sign-on then? So single sign-on is simply giving you the ability for the user to just have one set of credentials to access all of their resources. So that could be applications, it could be websites, and it could be data. And you're doing that as long as they have permission to access that specific piece of data. On average, a user has around 191 sets of credentials. So of course, each one of those at the moment, the user would have a separate set of credentials to gain access, and they've got to remember those. So of course, the user is going to probably keep the password the same in numerous forms of those applications, or use a third-party solutions to manage those, which is outside of your control as an IT admin. With a single sign-on solution, you're able to bring all that together into one place and manage that yourselves. So you can see here, we've got one set of credentials, which then allows user to access the OneLogin portal, and then from there, access all of their applications. So how does single sign-on work? Well, of course, we've got our employees, we've got our contractors, and we've got our customers, and they could all be stored in different databases. We can pull all that data into our OneLogin system using our connectors. So that could be an Active Directory connector, it could be an LDAP, it could be HR as a directory, or it may be that you choose to create and manage those users in OneLogin itself. We then use our roles and mappings to grant our users access into our applications. So they access that via our OneLogin portal, which I will demo later on. What's an application connector? Well, our application connectors allow you to set up single sign-on into your applications. And we have around 6,000 of these application connectors. Out of those, we have around 120 of those which allow you to provision and deprovision, update attribute values within the endpoint system. And examples of those include Salesforce, G Suite, Office 365, and Slack. So you can manage those users and therefore reduce the amount of time that it takes for your IT administrators to onboard and offboard a user. So why do we need single sign-on then? Well, we need to eliminate the need to remember multiple credentials. Users have so many other things to do in their day-to-day work, they don't want to have to remember another set of credentials. We want to also reduce time and money spent having to reset those credentials if the users do forget them. So we can really streamline that process by implementing password self-service. We want to improve auditing. We want to see where users are accessing from. We want to see how many users are actually accessing the applications that they've been granted access to. Do we need to give them users that access anymore? Are we actually using that application that we spend thousands of pounds on a year? Or is it just sat there doing nothing? So this allows you to do that, as well as ensuring that people are accessing from the right places. Giving users self-service, of course, increases their satisfaction with the products, allowing them to access through a single sign-on solution, simplifies that process and also raises the satisfaction even further. We're also able to reduce bad password hygiene because, of course, we can set that password policy in our solution. And then finally, because we are introducing things like password self-service and reducing the number of credentials that a user has to remember, we're therefore reducing the help desk costs as well. So what are the high-level benefits of single sign-on? Well, we can give you a better security posture. We can make sure that you are in the right place, that your users are using the right sort of credentials, and that you are enforcing that globally across your business. We can increase productivity because users are able to access their systems quicker, and they can also reset things quicker as well. We can lower the help desk calls, which then also gives you that lower cost because you're not driving as many calls, You can therefore reduce the number of service desk agents that you have. And of course, you're giving a better user experience because users are getting that one experience when they're accessing the applications rather than having to remember numerous different URLs and passwords. So OneLogin portal gives users a one-click access to all of their web applications in the cloud behind your desktops, smartphones, tablets, etc. OneLogin's policy-driven security and multi-factor authentication ensures that only authorized users get access to sensitive data. As I already mentioned, we've got a real-time Active Directory sync. We also integrate with LDAP and also HR-driven identity as well. So that could be namely Workday. It could be Bamboo HR as well. As I already mentioned as well, we've got 6,000 pre-integrated applications. We can brand up your portal as well, so it doesn't just have to look like something that you've bought from elsewhere. You can have your own look and feel to that with your own colors, your corporate branding, etc. We've got role-based access control, so you control based on your attribute values set within your users, how you want to control your users in terms of security policy and also which applications that you want to grant them. New applications are added automatically to your users based around the roles that they sit in. And of course, we can seamlessly access and manage cloud-based applications from one single place, rather than you having to do that by logging into multiple different portals. One of the main solutions that we use, or one of the main protocols that we use, is SAML. So this is a modern authentication technique that majority of our enterprise applications use these days. So what is SAML? It is your uses an XML signed certificate exchanging data between identity provider and service provider, and it then allows the user to log in. So you can see at the bottom there, we've got an exchange of XML data, and then the user can be signed into our application. And SAML is one of the main services that we use to allow our users to sign into our applications. So in terms of best practices and project implementation guidelines for rolling out something such as OneLogin, but of course, use the web standards as much as possible. Use SAML, use WS-Fed. We also support OIDC and OAuth, LDAP, WebAuthn as well. Always enforce MFA. You want to add another layer of security onto your logins. Having a password these days is not strong enough. Of course, as soon as that password is breached, somebody could get into a system. Adding multi-factor on top allows you to ensure that it's something you know plus something that you have. If somebody's only got one piece of the puzzle, you can't gain access into the system. And also look at using adaptive authentication as well. So look at those different measures and those risk scores around a user's login. When rolling out something such as OneLogin, use the phased implementation approach. Don't try and do it all at once. Don't try and chew more than you can swallow. Try and roll it out in different phases and choose those quick wins first. So look at what your high value applications are and try and roll those out first, because of course that can make the project an instant win and help to pay for itself. So things like Office 365, Salesforce and G Suite are normally utilized by the entire business. It's a quick win to get everybody on board at once, rather than you having to go and do little chunks. Self-service is also a key win here. So make sure you enable something like self-service, because that allows you to allow the user to do things themselves rather than having to rely on your service desk team in order to reset things like passwords. So let's move on to the demo. Let's see what the product looks like. So let me quickly move across to one of my other screens and we'll get on with the demo. So this is our dashboard login here. As I already mentioned, you can customize this and make it look exactly as you want. So we can have a custom background on here. The logo can change. The colors of this screen can change. You can even change the terminology there to suit your branding as well. And one of the key things on this front end is that forgotten password link down the bottom here. So this enables your users to have a little bit of self-service. So we can click on that forgotten password link. And in this case, we're going to use Rebecca. So Rebecca can come in here and she can reset her password. So I'm going to put Rebecca's username in. On the right-hand side of my screen, I have got a mobile phone. And this has got a tool called OneLogin Protect enabled. This is our own app. And it has also got push enabled. So you can see at the top there, once that push notification has been sent through to the device, I can simply just accept it. And that then is sent back into OneLogin. And I can reset my password. This password writes back to AD as well. So this user is connected into AD. So not only am I resetting my password to get back into OneLogin, I'm resetting my AD password as well, keeping everything in line. You'll also see at the bottom of this screen, we've got a password policy. And as I type my new password, you'll see that I become compliant with that policy. And then once that happens, the submit button lights up. So let me type that in now. So I've typed my new password in, I hit submit, and then I can go and log in again as Rebecca, which I'll do once that password's been reset. So we'll now sign in. Let me just open up the OneLogin Protect app just so you can see what that itself looks like. So we'll sign into Rebecca now. We'll hit enter, or you could have clicked continue there. And then we'll get prompted from multi-factor. It might be that we haven't got this method. It might be our phone's broken. Well, I could click on change authentication factor. And if I've got another factor enabled for my account, I could use that factor instead. So let me click on accept. That's now going to take me through into my dashboard. And then from here, I can access all of Rebecca's applications. So for example, I could go into G Suite with a single click. So instead of me having to remember another username or password for G Suite, I'm signed straight into my account and I can get on with my day-to-day work. It might be now that I need to access my Salesforce application. Well, normally I'd find that link, I'd try and work out where I was going. I'd then have to remember my username and password. With OneLogin, I simply go back to my dashboard, I click on Salesforce, and I'm signed straight into my application. If I went to Salesforce and tried to get in via there, of course, I'm going to be redirected back into OneLogin to sign in. If I've got a valid cookie already for that, that'll sign me straight into the application again. One of the things I mentioned earlier was that we can do password vaulting. So maybe you've got an Instagram account or a Facebook account that's managed by your marketing team. Well, what happens when a user leaves the business? What happens in terms of password cycling? Well, normally, when the account was created 5 years ago, generally the password's still the same today as it was back then. Nobody would have changed those passwords. We can vault that password or a new password for it in OneLogin and securely share those application links with the user. So with a quick and easy install of an extension in the browser, this LinkedIn icon here allows me to access my LinkedIn profile or my shared LinkedIn profile in this case, quickly, easily, and securely. In terms of the things that Rebecca can do in here, she can come in here and she could install a new extension. She could add in additional authentication factors if need be. We've got security questions enabled for this user. So this security questions could be updated or new ones added. So what does the administration console of this look like? Let me quickly dive across to it now. So here's our admin console, and we could use this to manage our users day to day. So it might be we want to use OneLogin as a user management tool. So we can click into all users here, and I could simply and easily click on new user and then create a new user in the cloud managing that user. A lot of our customers come to us with a pre-existing directory. So if we click on directories here, I can quickly and easily bolt in a new directory. I could have 3 or 4 different active directories and then use OneLogin as a single pane of glass to then manage those directories. As you can see here as well, we're also using G Suite and Bamboo as a directory in this case. So we can provision our users from both G Suite and from Bamboo if we wanted to. We use our roles to define the applications that users have access to. So in this case, we've got a default role that's got Google Cloud Platform and G Suite. And then we've got a sales role slightly further down, which has access to Salesforce. Our IT team have got access to a number of other applications as well, including AWS, ServiceNow, and Meraki. So when we provision a user into those roles, they're automatically granted access to those using our mappings. So we can look at our mappings here. My sales team, for example, have got access to the sales team role if they're not in my Bamboo HR directory, and if they've got a department of sales against them. So let's have a look at this flow then. Let's see what happens when we provision a user from AD. So I've got Dave sat in my staging OU currently. If we go back into OneLogin, we should find that Dave doesn't currently exist. So we've got a Dave Minto, but we don't have a Dave Dobson. So my staging OU isn't synced with OneLogin. However, my production OU just at the top here is. If I drag Dave into my sales organization and come back into OneLogin, give it a quick refresh in terms of the web interface, we'll see that he's instantly been created there. And that's using our real-time sync. So we subscribe to those updates in AD, we see it, and then we sync it. You'll see we pull all the information out of AD as well. So we pull all the directory information out. We could map those to custom fields. So if you're using extended attribute 15 for something, you could map that to a custom field in OneLogin and then push that into one of your other applications if you so wished. Additionally, we're also applying the applications as I already mentioned. So you can see here, Dave's now got access to G Suite. We provisioned the account in G Suite. He's also got access to Office 365. He's also got access to Salesforce. Again, we've provisioned the application into there, plus the other applications in there. So Bamboo, Expensify, GoGuardian, all of those the user's been granted access to. So let's log into Dave's account. So if we do an incognito window, we'll hold these side by side. Let's go to my dashboard and we'll sign in as Dave. Now, because this is the first time that Dave signed in, he's got to set up 2SV because that's the policy for this particular company. Now, if we click on Begin Setup, you'll see we get given a load of different applications that we could use here. So this company's policy is to give the company employees access to every factor that's around, but you could, as an IT admin, choose to target this based on the user type, and you can use your security groups for that. So you can see here we've got WebAuthn, we can do Secure ID, VIP Access, Duo. We've got security questions in Google Authenticator and YubiKey. Today we are going to use OneLogin Protect, which is our own tool and becomes part of the product. So if I click on OneLogin Protect, it's a simple download from the App Store, and then we click on Activate and simply scan the QR code. So I scan the QR code now, I get a nice green tick on my mobile device. And then that will then take me through into Dave's dashboard because we're now authenticated. As I'd already mentioned, we've provisioned access to the applications that we support provisioning for, so 365, Salesforce, and G Suite. So if we simply click on 365, we gain access to that straight away. So there we are in 365, we're signed in as Dave, as you can see in the top right-hand corner there. The same happens with Salesforce, so if we sign into Salesforce now. So we've really reduced the amount of time that it takes to onboard a user. We've reduced the amount of time that it takes for a user to sign into their applications, and we've made sure that we've secured all of our applications with multi-factor authentication, of course. But what happens if Dave changes roles? So what happens if he, say, moves from sales into IT? Well, let's have a look. So let's find Dave in my sales AU. Let's make a couple of changes to him. So he's moved from sales into IT. So let's drag him across. And let's go back into OneLogin. If we go into the user information and then refresh the web UI, you'll see that that has instantly brought the new information across. If we go into applications, we've instantly changed the applications that the user's got access to. So we're now provisioning into ServiceNow. We've removed Salesforce. So if I click across around in Salesforce, we've instantly locked the user out. And then if we close down these windows and refresh his dashboard, we'll also see that we've now got access to a new set of apps, including ServiceNow and Meraki. So if I click on Meraki, we're simply signed straight into that solution, again using SAML. What happens when he leaves? Well, we want to do the same sort of thing. We want to lock him out of all his applications. So let's have a look at that. Let's find Dave in my organization. Let's delete him out of my system. We could suspend him, but let's delete him just to make sure that we tidy things up here. And then let's refresh his dashboard. And you'll see here, he's been locked out of that portal entirely. We've closed the front door. He's no longer got access to our apps, and we know everything is secure. We'll also expire any cookies that are existing in 365 and Google and lock those down as well. And we can also deprovision the accounts from that side of things in addition. So we can make sure that all of our access has been revoked. Things like mobile devices, etc., are all gone in terms of data syncing. Looking deeper into the company app side of things, as I already mentioned, we've got around 6,000 applications that we support, but we can also provision into apps. So for example, 365, we can provision the data into 365. We can apply the licensing to users. So my sales team, for example, could be automatically added to the sales group. They could automatically be given a specific license, which we can pull out of the tenant. So again, we're reducing the amount of time that it takes to onboard a user and also offboard a user, of course, because we want to choose to do something when we remove that user from the company. Or we can say, well, do we want to delete the user? Do we want to suspend the user? Or do we want to do nothing and leave that data hanging for an IT admin to go and clear up afterwards? Of course, we're securing all of that down and making sure that the data can't be accessed by the wrong people. Looking at the authentication factors, we can set up multiple different factors here, as I already mentioned. So we've got everything enabled for this specific account. We've got a new tool called OneLogin Voice, which allows you to do an automated call to the system and enter a 6-character code. We've got SMS through Twilio. We can do security questions as well. And then we can target these with our security groups. So it might be we wanted to give one set of users a certain level of access and another set of users another level of access. You can also see in this menu here that we can do a few other things. So not only can we do MFA, but we can also act as a Radius server. And you don't need to have an on-premise installation to use our Radius server. You can just point straight to us and utilize us. So it may be that you're using a Wi-Fi solution that uses Radius at the moment or have an aspiration to do that. You can just point to us and then use us for login, but also layer up multi-factor on top of that. Again, you could also use us for OpenVPN or VPN solution and point to us for Radius. You can also use this as a virtual LDAP, and we also have desktop single sign-on capabilities using our Active Directory connector as well. So where you may not want to have a user entering a username or password once they're signed in to their AD account, you can then just use the integrated Windows authentication to then sign the user straight into their applications via the dashboard. So let's have a look at the Radius side of things. So I'm going to simply grab my Radius account here. I'm going to connect to an OpenVPN and then show you how we can layer multi-factor up on top of Rebecca's account. So you can see we've got the OpenVPN client in the middle of the screen there. If we click on connect, we'll be prompted for our multi-factor. And then on the right-hand side of the screen there, you can see we've got our one-time codes. We can simply and easily layer that up and add some extra security into our VPN authentication. So there we are, authenticated into our VPN. Our session's established. So if I go back into my solution here and we look at our activity log, you can see here that Rebecca has authenticated into our OpenVPN. We've got this activity log here. If you want some deeper information, then you could use a SAML solution to hook into our JSON feed via the webhooks. So under our developers menu, we have got the ability to create some webhooks to utilize a SAML solution such as Splunk or Elasticsearch, Sumo Logic, etc. So you can process that data even further if you needed to and alert on that. We have got some notifications options as well under our activity feed, and we can do some reporting as well. Okay, so that's pretty much a very brief overview of what we can do. So let me pass back for any questions.